Good morning and a warm welcome to all our viewers on Doordarshan Sports. I'm your host Arjun and with me is Sakshi Manwal. Good morning, Sakshi.
Good morning, Arjun. Thank you so much for welcoming me in the show, and indeed to all our viewers, a very warm welcome as we bring you the live coverage, of course, on Doordarshan Sports. And today is going to be a big day because we have the Indian men's hockey match coming up live at 7 a.m. against Belgium. That's going to be a big header given the fact that we have entered into the semi-finals of Olympics after almost 49 years. And Arjun, this is going to be one match that I believe all of us are looking forward to, and probably that's the reason we have the energy in the studio this morning also, because it's a good thing to look forward to this morning, an exciting one in fact.
I agree with you. We defeated Great Britain by 3-1, which is why we've entered into the semi-finals. And Sakshi had just quoted the last time we did this well, which was in 1980. So India takes on Belgium in the semi-final, and if they win the semi-final, then they take on the winner in the other semi-final between Australia and Germany on Thursday itself. And let's not forget the women's performance, Sakshi, as well, because they have exceeded expectations. They have won the quarterfinal match against Australia by 1-0, and for the Australians it has been a major disappointment. They are a powerhouse of hockey, with Gurjeet Kaur scoring in the 22nd minute, which was the second quarter of the match, which means that they are now in the semi-finals also against Argentina, Sakshi.
Yes, of course, and we'll have a lot more discussion on this lined up for you. But for now, let's have a look at how the events from the Indian side look today. What are we looking forward to? All the action coming up ahead on the screens. The first thing that's coming up today, we'll be having athletics, of course, the women's javelin throw, where we have Anu Rani from India representing the country at 5:50 a.m. IST.
Next up is the semi-finals that we're talking about. India takes on Belgium, and the winner of this semi-final will take on the winner of the semi-final between Australia and Germany in men's hockey on Thursday. Well, that was the clip on India versus Belgium. Let's remember that the reason why we were in the semi-final was because of a victory against Great Britain by 3-1. And the goal scorers for that were Dilpreet Singh, Gurjant Singh and Hardik Singh. Then you have the women's freestyle 62-kilogram category as well. Sonam Malik takes on her Mongolian opponent there today from 8:30 in the morning. And there is also other freestyle events taking place earlier at 2:45 p.m.
Of course, then we have men's shot put also coming up, in which we have the qualification rounds today, where Tajinder Pal Singh Tour of India, will be representing us at 3:45 p.m. IST. This, I believe, would be the action that we're looking forward to in the day today. As we progress into the second the second week of the Olympics, of course, the events carry on decreasing thanks to the fact that all the nations start moving into the bronze and the silver and the gold medal matches that we're looking forward to. Hockey is going to be the center of all the attention today, Arjun. In fact, because it is a big one. And since we're talking about hockey, let's also first have a look at how the Indian women's hockey match went yesterday, where India won the game, making history by, of course, defeating Australia.
And now we are in the semi-finals where we will take on Argentina, which is also a very tough team to beat in the semi-finals.
Let's also have a look at how the journey for Indian men's hockey team has been so far in Olympics, where we've seen that, of course, the Indians went on to play a total of 5 matches in which they have won 4 and lost only 1. That one loss coming at the hands of Australia, where India lost to Australia 7-1. And on the contrary, if we have a look at how Belgium went so far in the tournament, then they have played 5 matches in total, which has been, of course, the case for all the countries, where Belgium won 4 and drew only 1 game. It's one of the most strongest contenders in the competition. Also, Arjun, it's the second-ranked team in the world. But if we were to also discuss lightly about how India has fared against Belgium, we had a very, very good run. And I think Bhubaneswar Games would also refresh your memory of how, when Indians faced Belgium, we were able to put them under the radar out there. And it's so far, if we were to look at it statistically also, the Indians have had a very, very good run against Belgium.
Well, let's not forget that in Bhubaneswar, those are different conditions. We are in Tokyo, where the Olympics are taking place, and it's a tremendous achievement by the men's hockey team. And what's more important is we defeated Great Britain in the quarterfinals by 3-1. And let's have a look at how we actually did it before we reach the semi-finals against Belgium, which will take place today. And the winner of today's semi-final will take on the winner of the other semi-final between Australia and Germany.
And let's also not forget that the fact that the Indian hockey on both women and men's front has been able to make history by moving into the semi-finals of Olympics in itself will be a great booster for the Indian hockey on the national level, also even post-Olympics, because this is how the sport now starts getting recognized on a greater scale by common people, and also helps develop the interest of masses much more than what it would have been prior to how Olympics was. And this is what we're saying, that as we move into the second week of Olympics, we have a good showing by our players as expected. Happiness and good news coming up. Personally, it makes me very, very happy, Arjun, because that's what we would want at the end of the day, since all the players are fighting for the medals. This happening for us, nothing better than this right now.
It's even better that I see you so happy in the studio right now with India's performance.
Yes.
Now let's move on to athletics, where unfortunately the results are not so positive. We'll start with the 200 meters race, where Duti Chand unfortunately lost in the heats. Just looking at the records, Sakshi, we have for the 200 meters, where Saraswati Saha had a best of 22.82 seconds, and she's from West Bengal. She's not there in the heats, but if you compare it to the national record, one got the feeling that if Duti Chand had even matched the national record timing that Saraswati Saha had clocked in Ludhiana, then I think she would have been relatively satisfied. But unfortunately, in the heat, she could not match the timing. And in running, Sakshi, we usually see that if you have a strong competition, it does improve your timing. But in this case, Duti Chand was not able to even match the national record. And I'm sure our athletic expert would have something else to say as well regarding Duti Chand. But athletics, track and field, and the sprinting event is something that we are really handicapped at the international level.
Yes, of course, but we'll get you the experts' insight on that once we're joined by an expert later part of the day. Also, to give you a quick recap of how this heat went, we had on the number 1 spot, we had Christine Boma of Nigeria finishing on the top spot with the result of 22.11. And after that, we of course had USA, who was being represented by G. Thomas, that is Gabriel Thomas, finishing with a result of 22.22 seconds. And then finally, we had A. Saini, who finished on the 3rd spot. She was from Niger, and of course she finished with 22.72. Duti Chand, as we just pointed out, finished on the 7th spot, which was last spot in that heat, which was heat 4, finishing with a record, or rather a timing of 23.85. We have lots more discussion and a lot of action coming up, but right now, Arjun, I think it's time for us to take our viewers to the live action that's coming in, please.
Well, we will do that, but let's have a look at how Kamalpreet Kaur actually fared in the discus throw event. But Kamalpreet Kaur, I felt, had won the hearts and minds of our viewers and, of course, the press as well, because she really tried, and that is what really counts in the Olympics. Even though the 5 interlocking rings talk about unity, but it also represents courage and temperament of the athlete, and which is where we saw Kamalpreet Kaur really giving it her best in this track and field event.
Yes, and Arjun, when you talk about the mindset and the kind of effort that an athlete puts in and the attitude, I was just reading yesterday a quote, or rather a few words of Kamalpreet Kaur herself, where she said that she used to use her own bed for weightlifting purposes, and she used to use the pots in the house, the plant pots that we have, for actually training herself as weights. So it goes on to show the kind of dedication these players, these athletes put into to just train themselves. And it's a big thing that for us, for Indians, Kamalpreet Kaur finished on the 6th spot, despite she couldn't make it to the 1st, 2nd or 3rd spot. But the fact that she still finished in the 6th spot and was able to qualify to be a part of that in itself makes her a reason to be celebrated, and that is what we do when we bring sports together. It teaches us how to have healthy competition and sportsman spirit. And coming back to the point about having the right mindset and attitude, Arjun, for the kind of effort that these athletes put into training themselves, let's just say it's commendable that she was still able to finish on the 6th spot, and that's what makes us happy for now.
Well, she was a medal contender, let's not forget that. And she, along with Valerie Allman had qualified together, in fact, and it was Valerie Allman who excelled in that final medal contending event where she threw 68.98 meters, and Kamalpreet Kaur threw 63.70 meters. What it shows is that in the future events, she should be a strong medal contender taking on the top contenders in discus throw. And remember, this is a field event. We were discussing earlier about the track event where Duti Chand failed to qualify in the 200 meters sprint. But all in all, the women's competition so far in track and field athletics has been commendable. Unlike other sports where we have traditionally done well at the Asian level, at the Olympic level, the women have excelled so far with bronze medals by PV Sindhu, and let's not forget Mirabai Chanu in weightlifting as well, and then Lavlina Borgohain in the boxing event. So we have all our medal winners who are women.
Yeah. I knew Arjun, being Arjun for all our viewers, as dear a friend as he is, but he seems to be really happy about the fact that women have been the spearheaders and actually on a winning spree over here, which of course gives us another reason to celebrate. But personally, I'll always choose to look at them as players and athletes first. And of course, it's a beautiful combination with the fact, or a coincidence, that they are women, or rather the number of women so far in terms of having won medals or actually taking the lead. It's the women out there. Moving on to the other events also that happened in the day yesterday, it was shooting that we'll also now focus at, where we had Ashwin Pratap Tomar and Sanjeev Rajput failing to qualify for the finals. And of course, while Ashwin Pratap Tomar finished on the 21st position with 1167, that is 1167 points, we had Sanjeev Rajput finishing on the 32nd position with 1081 points. What is actually very surprising, or should I say shocking, Arjun, is the fact that the shooters haven't been able to perform very well this time. It's become almost the talk of the town, because it is one event where we were expecting medals to happen for us, but at the end of the day, what we've had in our hands is just somewhere disappointment. That is not to take away the credit or the fact that yes, they put in a lot of effort, and whatever they have done so far, you cannot take away that credit that they are putting in effort. Every athlete, every player wants to put that and does that, but at the end of the day, the results table shows a very, or rather speaks a very different story, which is why shooting has been a disappointment this time.
Well, I think you're being very generous in your comments about the shooting contingent.
I did say they have been a disappointment at the end, yes.
Yes, I think you added that in the end, but they have been a major disappointment. Remember, they have the legacy of Gagan Narang and Abhinav Bindra, who have been the medal winners at the Olympics. Abhinav Bindra, the first gold medal after hockey, the 9th in fact for India in its total tally in all the Olympics. So we have a great legacy when it comes to shooting, and unfortunately they didn't even manage to qualify. And if you look at Aishwarya Pratap Tomar's, he finished 21st with 1,167 points in shooting, and Sanjeev Rajput finishing 32nd with 1,081 points. So I feel, Sakshi, that you know, where if a performance has been credible, we should certainly say that it is. But if it has been as disappointment as this has been, if it's been a total failure, then we should call the spade a spade.
True. I agree on that. I second you over there, of course, because it has been a disappointment for us so far shooting when we look at it. But one other event also happened, Arjun, in the day yesterday, which was, of course, equestrian, where Fauad Mirza finished in the 23rd place in jumping individual finals. Though he ended his Olympic campaign over there, but in equestrian, we were able to qualify in the individual finals in itself. That also, I remember yesterday when I was having a look at Twitter and social media everywhere, this was also one of the big news, that he has qualified for the jumping individual finals in itself. Yes, we finished on the 23rd place. We'll leave that to the experts' opinion as to how that performance could be rated. But the fact that in equestrian we were able to qualify in the individual finals, that is jumping individual finals, does call for a source of acknowledgement over there, Arjun.
Well, Sakshi, I had the benefit of doing this program with our expert Sharad Saxena, and he explained in great detail about how the equestrian eventing takes place, and the eventing has 3 sub-events, which has starting with the dressage, then the cross country, and then show jumping, as you had mentioned earlier. And all 3 events are marked by penalty points, so you have to actually perform without incurring a penalty.